Hello and welcome Lucasfilm Board of Directors. My name is Charlie Lawver.
Julian Keeley.
My name is Shane O'Donnell.
And we're here to address the ethical, financial, and legal aspects of your cinematic process. Specifically the use of controversial technologies used by your visual effects studio, Industrial Light and Magic. Now this issue concerns the most recent film in the Star Wars movies Rogue One, which was released in December of 2016. Now Industrial Light and Magic, or ILM, has most recently astonished the film community and cinema-goers alike with its groundbreaking effects used in Rogue One. ILM staff actually went about doing this. They actually combined live action and digital effects in order to resurrect the deceased Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, the formidable commander of the Death Star. Now ethically, we believe that this process infringes upon an individual's right to his or her own dignity. We believe that the continued use of this technology will possibly result in a negative public image for Lucasfilms, which would harm you negatively, financially. And legally, this technology conflicts with post-mortem rights of publicity and could result in potential lawsuits. We propose that you take a step away from this technology and instead redirect your creative efforts to technologies that better benefit viewer experience and character development. Now for some background, Industrial Light and Magic it has been a superstar in the entertainment industry since it was founded by George Lucas actually in 1975 during the production of Star Wars A New Hope, the first Star Wars. It is headquartered in San Francisco and it is a subdivision of the production company Lucasfilms. Because it is a powerhouse in visual effects in the industry, it has produced the effects for nearly 300 films. Now, the Industrial Light and Magic, as it never fails to impress, it recreated Peter Cushing's appearance from his performance as Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars A New Hope. And the effects artist actually did this by using a motion capture performance of Guy Henry as Tarkin during the production and the filming of Rogue One. And it was later, Guy Henry, his performance, that was pre-photography, and afterwards is when they digitally recreated and imposed Peter Cushing onto Guy Henry and his character as Tarkin. Now, Rogue One has received very mixed reviews from critics and its visual effects. So some critics very much commend Rogue One and Lucasfilm for bridging the uncanny valley and bringing back this memorable character. And Rogue One actually received an Academy Award nomination for Best Achievement in Visual Effects. But other critics actually condemn this technology, or they appreciate and acknowledge the technological advancement, but they consider the practice of it as a breach of dignity. Now Julian is going to address more in depth the ethical aspects of this issue.
Thank you, Charlie. Have any of you ever lost a loved one, a family member, or a close friend perhaps? When looking through old photo albums and videos of them, it can be a strange experience to see someone who once lived and laughed and enjoyed life and yet is no longer here with us. It would be even stranger to see that person do and say things that they never did in real life. And yet for the family and friends of Peter Cushing who went to see Rogue One, this is exactly what they experienced. A nearly perfect photo recreation of the beloved actor. I can only imagine how disturbing and unsettling this experience must have been for them. The writer Max Farrell raises this same thought experiment in his critique of Rogue One. And other critics, such as Catherine Short of The Guardian, have condemned this as a case of digital indignity. David Ehrlich of IndieWire went even further, calling this unethical and borderline unholy. Now the creation of this technology was an inevitable evolution in digital entertainment, and yet the success with which the effects artists were able to pull this off means that we can no longer treat this as a theoretical postmodern debate. We're entering into a whole new world of morality and consent that needs to be readdressed. People have a right to their own dignity, whether they are still living or not. This film process is unethical because it cannot obtain the informed consent of the dead actors involved. Now, in the case of Rogue One, the filmmakers got permission from Peter Cushing's estate to move forward with this technology. However, even the permission of a family member does not truly qualify as ethical consent, even if it qualifies as legal consent. Now, there's another issue, there's another dimension to this issue. Industrial Light and Magic and Lucasfilm have a history of creating industrial trends. This is apparent by their 2002 film, Star Wars: Attack of the Clones, which ushered in a new era of digital filmmaking. Now, the recreation of Peter Cushing stands as one of the most significant CGI accomplishments in the history of cinema. This creates the likely possibility of an industrial trend of more filmmakers using this same technology. Even John Knoll, who's the creative genius behind these effects, even he admits the slippery slope argument that more and more filmmakers may decide to move forward with this technology in their own films. So to recap, this film practice is unethical because filmmakers cannot obtain the consent of dead actors to use their likeness in post-mortem. And here I'm going to hand it off to Shane to talk about the financial dimension of this.
Thank you, Julian. So, as you all know from popular American culture, that edgy effects in films and TV shows bring people out to the box office. You all know this better than anyone because you've been doing it for the past 20 years, ever since making the Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies. As people come out to the box office, obviously you increase in profits as a company, and this increase in profits increase your employees' benefits and security, as well as a possible increase in stock for the Disney company, which owns Lucasfilm. Alongside edgy effects, the public also responds very well to visual effects that push the boundaries of cinematography. ILM, your visual effects studio, has done this better than anyone in the field. They were able to, this forward movement of visual effects is always apparent in the movie Rogue One, where you recreated a deceased actor. Now, despite this amazing jump in visual effects to recreate a deceased actor, the profits from Rogue One were only moderate. Even though a strikingly large number, Rogue One grossed $1 billion worldwide. In comparison to other films who have also used this type of technology, Avatar, they use a similar technology to recreate the Avatar blue people. They grossed $3 billion worldwide. And the newest film, Beauty and the Beast, who also used a similar technology to recreate the Beast, grossed $88 million in 2 weekends. Now, throughout the Star Wars movies, you allot a special effects budget of $2 million for every film. The problem with this technology is the mass amount of manpower, as well as use of technology and staging that it requires. This takes a lot of money out of your visual effects budget, and you'll have less money to continue making the aliens and planets that you're so well known for doing. While this movement towards a new type of technology hasn't seen a profit as other films have. A reason for this could possibly be that people aren't responding as well to this new type of technology, and they aren't quite comfortable with this movement of bringing back deceased actors. You may have also, because of the lack of emphasis on the planets and aliens that you're so well known for doing, instead of bringing in an entire new audience, as well as keeping your safe audience with you, you may have lost your solid audience that you've worked so hard to gain for the past 30 years. There's also, because of the newness of the technology, an unknown reaction from the public, which could be shown in the moderate gross income of this film. Actors who also may be uncomfortable with this type of technology may not want to act in your movies anymore. You'll have a harder time getting the big names such as Tom Cruise or the modern day Peter Cushings. A similar type of this technology was used earlier than Rogue One. It was used in the film Fast and Furious 7 with actor Paul Walker. Now, the difference here between the imagery used in Rogue One and the imagery used in Fast and Furious 7 is that this was needed for the contingency of the film. He unfortunately passed away mid-film, so they had to finish his role in the movie. And they did it so elegantly that they were able to cast his brother to play his own part. Whereas for an actor such as Peter Cushing, this is not possible. There's also a chance of lawsuit by the actors. Of course, more legal affiliations will be spoken on by Charlie coming soon. And as you know, the public loves their actors. If an actor were to sue your company because they don't feel that their image was used the way that they would want it to be, there's a potential for the entire public to side with the actors, which would potentially lead to a boycott of your films, which would obviously decrease your profits, decrease the security and benefits for your company, as well as decrease your stock. Now, to touch on the legal issues more in depth, I'll give it up to Charlie.
Thank you, Shane. So not only does this new technology could lead into potential financial and ethical issues, but it could do the same for legal ones. Now, different states have different regulations regarding the laws that associate with post-mortem rights of publicity. Post-mortem rights are the rights that protect deceased actors from anyone using their likeness or image without their consent or the consent of their estate or beneficiaries, and prevents anyone from profiting off of them. Now, the state of California specifically allows for up to 70 years of an actor to be deceased and not use his or her image or likeness without anyone's consent. So Peter Cushing, who died in 1994, his death falls well within the safe parameter window of California's 70 years allotted. But you may be wondering, why does this matter? Why does California's rules for this matter if Peter Cushing is from the United Kingdom and he was born and died there? Well, the state in which a production takes place in takes trump and can enforce its rights of publicity no matter where an actor hails from. And then now another aspect that comes up, an interesting one, is copyright. So copyright falls under federal regulation, which generally trumps state regulation, in which post-mortem rights fall under. And so we worry that companies in the future may, if they have copyrighted footage of actors who have deceased, use this federal over state trump to take advantage and possibly use this legal loophole of sorts to not need to gain consent from an estate or beneficiary of a deceased actor and just go ahead and profit off of their likeness because they have their copyrighted footage. This is worrisome because as more and more companies latch on to technologies like this and the use of recreating deceased actors' images becomes more popular, their rights of publicity are acknowledged and respected less and less, and this could result in an eventual apathy of actors' rights as a whole. And then now, an interesting case of a recently deceased actor that took action in this was Robin Williams, who recently passed away. In his will, he stated that he wanted his name, image, photograph, likeness, everything that falls under rights of publicity to be locked away in a safe trust that cannot be breached or opened or utilized for anyone's profits for 25 years, no matter any state regulations or consent of his estate. So he locked this away for 25 years, and what a good idea to take this preliminary safety net of protecting his rights from anyone abusing them. But why should one have to do this? We think it's wrong for people of this day and age to feel the need to protect their name and image from being abused by anyone, especially after they pass away. This could lead to just general disrespect of anyone in the industry's name or reputation. So now I'm going to pass it off to Julian, who's going to address the solution, our proposed solution for this issue.
Thank you, Charlie. So now I'm going to be talking about the solution that we believe you guys should listen to in order to address this problem. So Lucasfilm has opened the door for more and more filmmakers to use this technology in their films. However, this does not mean that the door can no longer be closed. Lucasfilm possesses the innovative ability to guide the direction of the film industry, but we also believe that you can set ethical boundaries on certain technologies during your film production process. Lucasfilm and Industrial Light and Magic employees have recognized that this technology is very expensive and labor intensive. Now, if other studios decide to use this technology in their films, then this could create to industry-wide use of the technology. And if the technology spreads quickly and that far, then Lucasfilm will be held responsible for the normalization of this unethical practice. In order to grant new characters and actors the ability to consciously make these acting choices, Lucasfilm should create a barrier around dead actors that prevents the medium from reverting to exploitation. Now, I don't want you to think that we're merely asking you to take the moral high road here. There are also practical reasons why you should consider redirecting your creative vision for these films. Now, Guy Henry, who's the actor cast to play Tarkin in Rogue One, he has extreme credibility on this issue because he was directly involved in the motion capture performance. And in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he said that the process was genuinely frightening because he was so scared of letting down Peter Cushing. And there's also another issue with this type of performance because normally an actor is pretending to be a character. But now you have Guy Henry pretending to be Peter Cushing, pretending to be Grand Moff Tarkin. And this extra degree of separation possibly hindered Guy Henry's performance. And now the other issue is, as you can see, actors involved in these motion capture performances are forced to wear heavy head camera apparatus which has lights and lenses flashing in their eyes at all times. Now Guy Henry said that the use of this was very claustrophobic and bizarre. So this makes it very difficult for even the most talented actors to perform naturally on set. Now we believe that in the near future there might be an industry-wide pushback against unnecessary digital technologies during the film production process. Big-name actors may start to boycott film studios that use excessive digital technologies that concern actors. And instead, they might choose to work with other studios with more traditional approaches. Now, you can be on the leading edge of this industrial shift, or you can struggle to catch up after it happens. Now, while actors might be uncomfortable with these new equipment and technologies, the public is actually really excited for the new era of virtual reality technologies that are quickly coming. So if you're looking for an area in which to focus your technological research and development, then this is definitely it. Industrial Light and Magic has already started pursuing the future of entertainment through its exciting Star Wars Virtual Reality Lab, where the effects artists are exploring a variety of immersive experiences. And surely Lucasfilm will play a big role in shaping the interconnected experiences that will dominate the next decade. If Lucasfilm increases its use of facially recreated characters, then you may see a decrease in profits. However, if you redirect your creative vision, then you avoid both the financial risk of this model failing and the ethical risk of this technology becoming widespread in the industry. We encourage you, the board of directors, to chart a course for your company that avoids both legal complications, unnecessary financial risks, and unethical practices. We are confident that Lucasfilm will continue to bring exciting innovations to the big screen. Thank you so much for your consideration, and we're so excited to continue working alongside you, finding solutions to this problem.
Thank you. Well, we will now have our 20-minute question and answer, and just remember that we continue to stay enrolled here, you as the consultants and we as the board. So.
I'm a big troublemaker, and this is my question for you. Every actor who acts in a movie has an agent and signs a contract that is hundreds and hundreds of pages long. And that actor, moving forward, you can bet that as a board, if we have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders and we have a responsibility to our public, which might resent a third party being substituted. Every time there's a new Batman or a new Superman, right? There's always horrible publicity about he's not as good as this one. How many James Bonds have we had, right? So my concern is going forward, as a lawyer on the board, to me this is very simple. Part of your contract as an actor may be that you sign away the rights such that in the event of your death or your physical disability, that the company has the right not only to, because we already have the right to edit the film. The actor doesn't necessarily have editorial control. We have the rights to market it globally. We can clip it to have it on television. We have the right to advertise it in a certain way as we deem fit, and we might even change the ending to the movie after the fact. So what is wrong with the actors saying, in consideration of very large amounts of money that these guys are making, that in the event of your demise or your disability, if this character plays a role, particularly in a trilogy or a multi-episode thing, that we reserve the right to engage in this technology? And isn't that a compliment to the actor to show that we haven't brought in somebody else to try to pretend to be that character? You're like, I keep thinking of Carrie Fisher through this whole thing. You are so much Princess Leia that we are going to virtualize you rather than degrade you by substituting somebody else as the wannabe Princess Leia. What is wrong? I mean, from a legal perspective, I don't see an ethical issue going forward, because we can write all our contracts from this point out to cover it. And we can also call in every actor we've ever worked with and put money on the table. And if you don't think actors respond to money, I will sell you a bridge in my hometown in Brooklyn to say we want to use these rights. All right, and maybe your executor will think differently, because remember, the executor is really protecting the family members at the end of the day, or maybe it's a charity. And we can resolve all of this without getting into an ethical conundrum. The Robin Williams situation is different. Robin Williams is Robin Williams per se. He comes out on the stage, he acts as himself, he acts out as himself, and perhaps he put this in his will because he doesn't want an impersonator getting up on a stage in Vegas and pretending to do Robin Williams. But here, this actor is not playing himself. This is not an autobiographical thing. He's playing a character. So tell me why there's an ethical issue here.
Okay, that's a lot, but I'll try to.
Okay, well, I
think I'm glad you brought up those points. Those are things we'd like to talk about. Yes, you're right that you could write the contracts in order to legally protect yourself, and that would solve the lawsuit issue and any legal complications. However, if actors know they're going to have to sign away their rights so that the film production company can do whatever they want with that footage, then you might have some big name actors being hesitant to sign on with those films.
Oh, come on. These guys are making, what, $8–10 million for a movie? Do you really think they're going to sit at home and knit, as opposed to saying, this could be an Oscar award-winning performance, who's going to walk away? Where are they going to go?
Well, they get, if they're that big and popular, they will get offers from multiple films. So I mean, you have to deal with this on a case-by-case basis. I can't speak for other actors aside from Robin Williams because I don't know that we can only speculate what would happen if they're.
So it's a subject of negotiation. How is that unethical?
Sure. So if they are willing to move forward with it, that's fine. But then you might also have young actors who have just entered the industry who then are going to be forced to sign away their likeness, and then they're not really given a choice because either they'll be unemployed or they'll work on this movie in the only way is that they sign over their
But
rights.
remember, their right, that only happens if they become disabled or they die, correct? I mean,
Yes.
if they're alive, that's not to say we can use your likeness instead of paying you in sequel number 1, 2, and 3,
Well,
unless you agree to that.
The issue is already, even without signing that contract, you would probably be able to navigate the legal loophole and do that. So if you have someone sign away their rights of publicity, that would be a permanent thing. Then you would, the Lucasfilm would have control over the likeness, and they would be able to use it in a sequel. It wouldn't just be if they died during the middle of production of this one film. And to answer your point about Carrie Fisher, so this brings up an interesting point. So you said that you know it's honoring her legacy to recreate her using CGI. However, many fans were not okay with the idea of Carrie Fisher coming back using CGI. In fact, there were so many rumors going around and so many people against that idea that Lucasfilm actually had to come out and give a statement saying currently you don't plan on recreating Leia using CGI for the next the next 2 Star Wars films. Now, and the reason behind this was they said they wanted to honor the actress's legacy by not using CGI. However, when the filmmakers were asked why they digitally recreated Peter Cushing for Rogue One, they also gave the same reason. They said, we wanted to honor the actor's legacy by putting them in the next film. So basically, your company has given the same reasoning for 2 opposing film practices. And so what we want you to consider is, like, what kind of company do you want to be known as? One that tries to honor actors by recreating them in countless movies, or one that protects their legacy by keeping them in the films that they were actually involved in. So that, I hope that answers your
Carrie Fisher was iconic. I don't know that Peter Cushing was so iconic.
It's a little difficult because she just passed away.
Yeah, she just died.
20 years.
And when did she pass away?
Was it 94?
94.
Yeah.
And I know there were a lot of Star Wars fans who absolutely loved his performance and loved Peter Cushing, and so it's a little difficult.
But ethically, we don't know about Peter Cushing's family at all. But when the executors or executrix consented to this, because they were asked to consent, this was not done as a stealth maneuver. They consented. What if the money that they used, that was given to the estate, benefited his widow, who's now disabled and in need of care? And so by giving this opportunity, it enabled her to live a better life. What's wrong with that?
In that case, yeah, it would be difficult to argue that there's something wrong with that. I mean, he already made a lot of money during his acting career, so I'm not sure if any
People
of his
make it and they spend
are.
it, don't we know that?
Okay.
Let me ask a question. Where or did you look into the position that the Actors Guild took on this? Where are they coming out on this?
Do you want to address the legal part?
Could you?
Well, the actors all belong to a guild. It's like their union.
Yeah.
You know, what did you in any way look into that to see where they come out on that? Because I think a lot of where they stand will lead to what Ruth was talking about in terms of contractual things going forward. And I think that would be a really big thing that you know, we as an industry would have to look at, because those actors are our bread and butter, you know, and, you know, I just would like to know where they stand on that, if you have any information on that.
Well, so we did not look into the guild and the overall consensus of the community that actors fall under, but on a case-by-case basis at least, where they are signing contracts and going into projects with the potential of companies using their likenesses in the case of death or physical injury. The worry is not that, the worry lies in performers not having the freedom to, well, so it's a complicated matter. If you did get the consent in a contract prior to them going into it, filling it out, agreeing with it all, nothing's wrong with that. But again, if they don't consent to these kinds of contracts and they don't want to sign with companies that do this, those are actors that you're losing. And then the next step is, like in Peter Cushing's case, when he may or may not have signed away his likenesses during his life, there's no one, even though his estate may have given consent, that is not the same as him giving consent.
Why not? Estates do this all the time. You own a piece of property, you die owning the property, the estate determines what to do. The estate determines whether to pursue litigation. If Peter Cushing's estate, if this was done without consent, you can bet that the executor would have sued Lucasfilm.
Right. In that case, say if it's a house and that's a piece of property, but we believe that this is something that's much more essential to the actor themselves.
But isn't that a property? I mean, you can't sue in our legal system unless you have a property right or a civil right that's violated, or there's an incidence of negligence, a tort. So this is really a contractual question.
Yeah, from a legal viewpoint, but from an ethical viewpoint, we think it's something that goes beyond just someone's property that they hand over. This is his own dignity, and at the time of his death, he had no idea that this technology would come about in a few decades, and so he wouldn't have known.
Okay, so I have a question for you, and I keep thinking of The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Are you familiar with this? It's going to be a movie now starring Oprah. It's a book about someone's
Saturday, 8 o'clock.
No, it's about a woman who died of, I believe, uterine or ovarian cancer, and her cells were used for research. Family did not know that they were being used. They've been harvested down generations, and this created tremendous innovations in genomics and in the treatment of cancer. And nobody knew that her cells were being used. So there's an issue as to whether the family, years later finds out as to whether their rights have been violated, whether her privacy was violated in this. But she's a patient dying in a hospital and who had a post-mortem. When you are an actor and you work in the studio system, and it is a system, and when we were younger, Stan, it really was a system, this is the nature of the system. You're not necessarily a free agent. As an actor, you contract with a studio. You have the right not to do that. You can go work on Broadway, or you can be the starving actor. But you've made moral and ethical choices to participate in a movie, right? And handed over a variety of your rights to a producer. And you've consented to all of that.
I have another question. You indicated in the state of California there's a 70-year window, and maybe this is where the ethical piece comes in that we need to be considerate of. With respect to post-mortem rights, I know there are laws that differ from state to state that you can't disturb the body of a buried individual, you can't displace cemeteries, all of that. Are any of these things what may be driving this on a state-by-state basis? You just gave us what was applicable in California. Could we possibly be looking at there would be an applicable law because this person is buried in New York, or there would be another applicable law because the film was produced in South Carolina. You know, I guess what I'm looking at is where the ethical dilemmas come in terms of jurisdiction. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's true. And different states do have. I think New York and one other don't have a post-mortem window. I think it's 0 years that they need consent. There's 1 or 2 states, it's few. But the rest, if they do have them, range from 25 to 100 years after. I think other countries also don't, like I mentioned how the UN doesn't take into consideration the post-mortem rights, but it is wherever a production takes place that the rights are enforced, the number, at least years that are expected. And so, because it was California that Rogue One was produced in Hollywood, or Lucasfilms, it was 70, but yeah, if it was in South Carolina and their post-mortem window is 50 years, and 50 years after that actor's death is when you can start using it as likeness without consent. But then there is also, you can always get consent from the estate.
So I have a question. So if it's a 50 years post-mortem, is it unethical to do the same thing 50 years from now after that time period? Like Robin Williams is a 25-year thing, and you just brought him up, what is it, CGI, and then you have this character of Robin Williams after his 25 years. Is that unethical then?
Yeah, well, we believe it's still unethical because the 25 years is that's a limit set by the legal system. But I think what Robin Williams was hoping is that after 25 years, people probably won't want to bring him back again. I mean, possibly, but he took the maximum amount that he could. That was.
That's something that was legal. Like he didn't say, "I wanted 25 years."
Yeah,
Legal max.
Okay, legal max. Okay.
Yeah.
My other question is I think you mentioned it. Why is it okay that they brought Paul Walker back? I think you actually said it was elegantly done. So does that mean because it's elegant, it's okay?
Right.
It's ethical if it's elegant.
Or did he use his brother?
Well,
right, so
well, I know that part of it. Right.
So, yeah, just to bring it back. So, Paul Walker died in the middle of the making of Fast and Furious 7. Because they had to continue the character to finish the movie well, they used this technology to...
Same technology, right?
Same technology, to superimpose his face onto his brother. What I was speaking on is that the public backlash on this type of technology was not present because of how it was done and the reason for why it was done. So because they used a family member, because it was used for the necessity of finishing the film, the public disinterest in this type of technology wasn't present as it is potentially in this.
But having a family member use it, that's the same as consent as in the Cushing situation, right?
It's not the executor necessarily, the brother, he could have had a wife.
No, but with Cushing, it's like he didn't say it was okay, nor did
Right.
Paul Walker didn't say it was okay.
Right.
It was family members consented to it. So if one consent is okay, why isn't the other consent okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You also the part that Paul Walker had already committed to that movie, whereas with Rogue One, this is way after Peter Cushing's performance and
But her point about it was like it's a huge episodic thing where
Right, I mean, he died, they could have taken the insurance. They take insurance out on all these actors and on the movies. They could have said, you know what, we're stopping the movie. We're not gonna make it. Or we're gonna sit there and our screenwriters are gonna rewrite the movie and maybe we take out the character altogether. So I'm having such trouble understanding because the critics or the fans think that it was artfully done. How is that even relevant to the ethical issue?
And speaking of the fans, Rogue One still made a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't this backlash about, hey, we're not going to see it because we think it's unethical that you recreated this character.
So can I jump into it? I wanted to add some thoughts. So I just wanted to start off by saying that, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Julian.
So in the beginning of the presentation, you, in my opinion, reached an emotional button with me by saying, imagine someone, your family member had, passed away, and they recreated this person digitally, and now they're playing a scene or saying things that they normally wouldn't say. To me, that was like, okay, that I could take a look at that ethical issue just from that standpoint. And I think somewhere along the lines, we, maybe with examples or maybe talking about other aspects of how to look at it, we lost that angle or I lost that angle and that connection with that opening piece, which I thought was influential. And so as a board member, I would say, I appreciate your concern, and to agree with my fellow colleagues here, I don't think that I don't see a huge risk legally, financially, or otherwise, unless we have other customers coming to us in the future. If we decide to move forward with this technology and we have many more complaints, it might be something that I would be willing to take a look at and to say, are we really making a right decision by using this technology? But from an ethical standpoint, it could be viewed as a personal preference. I mean, to be honest with you, as long as the contract is written in a certain way where the family members or whomever is deemed the appropriate person or entity would be okay with this type of replication, it's kind of tossed. So I appreciate the sentiment, and I have empathy for where you're coming from in terms of recreating someone special to you personally. But again, it can be something that can be worked out in contract. And then in terms of ethics, I think this is a relatively new concern to the industry. And so as the industry continues to use this new technology and maybe replicate it for other people in other movies, we might see bigger cases come to the table where we have a larger concern to act on immediately as a board, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess what we're asking you to do is to try to get ahead of this before it becomes a bigger problem. Like I said, the backlash against Carrie Fisher was much bigger than the backlash against Peter Cushing being used in Rogue One, and that would only increase if you and more studios are planning to use actors, recreating them for different film series. And so,
sorry to interrupt you. So then is the ask of the board to reconsider the way that we contract with actors, or is the ask to not do it at all so we don't lead by example? What's the request?
Yeah, we'd ask you to not use deceased actors in your future films, and then if maybe the Actors Guild would play a part in this as well. But if you have enough pressure to follow Lucasfilm's example and to not exploit the post-mortem rights of deceased actors, then I think you prevent industry-wide movement of this technology.
Sure. What if we as a board were then to say, let's meet in the middle and allow for contracts to be written in such a way that truly either a wife or sister or brother or whatever, whomever is alive, were to consent to this. And we can play with the words legally later and the depth and breadth of cliches and all that other stuff later. But so if we were to allow for that negotiation to happen up front, do you then feel that Lucasfilm is being ethical in the way that we approach this kind of technology, using this kind of technology?
Yes, I think that would be a step in the right direction if you're involving actors more in the discussion, if you're getting close family members so they're all aware of the situation, and if they're able to sign onto something that they're aware of the situation before they pass away, that would be ideal, because then it would show that they're much more aware of this. I guess one of the biggest issues with Peter Cushing is he would have been completely unaware, and so you start to venture into unethical territory.
Right, because I can see the beginning of a movie showing up and just a quick note saying, to the audience that, loved members were, were contacted. We appreciate your revering this actor. Please enjoy the movie, something like that. So it's like, a quick blurb up there, so the audience feels that Lucasfilm is ethical and that they thought about this, and that family members have been contacted. So that's a recommendation I would be open to.
Yeah, that would be great.
You can have them CGI.
Technology is fast and furious. There's going to be
shift roles.
Technology is fast and furious.
Where we are right now, and just give you some feedback from the board members here, or from the panel. We're no longer board members. Personally, I think you had a real tough topic, and I think, as Shivani said, it's because it's so early in the development of this, and I think that you could have possibly staged it just a little bit gentler in coming to the board and saying something you want to consider. I don't think it was enough there for you to say that it's definitely an ethical, legal, whatever dilemma right now. But as advisor or consultants to us, it could have been giving us the flag, waving the flag, saying, hey, you might want to be aware. Let's get ready, prepare yourself in as many ways. But I think at this stage of the development, it's really hard to take a stance and say that this is wrong or this is right. As Shivani said, it touched it when you started off. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know how I feel with my folks. And so I think you got the attention of the board. And I mean, you absolutely got the attention. And I think we would have walked away feeling much more committed to you had it just been, this is the heads up. It could have been future business for you, saying, we want to watch this as it progresses. We want to work with you. This is something that's progressing down the line.
I did not see a clear-cut financial issue here other than vague conjecture. I didn't see anything substantive in that regard. I think the more interesting issue that was resonating in my mind, besides the Henrietta Lacks matter, was, in the comic book industry, many comic book artists were paid for their strips or for the character, and they were paid, token amounts of money. And 50 years later, after their death, the character is revived, and the studio is making millions and millions of dollars off of this, and that artist really got a pittance, and his family gets nothing. And there have been a bunch of lawsuits about that. So, I mean, from a legal point of view, I can tell you that all of this can be resolved contractually. The ethical issue is if, for example, in Rogue, if the Rogue series or Star Wars goes on, for 50 years more, and the actor in advance or his family member has received consideration, payment in the law, for the continuing use of the character using the technology. But now there's inflation, so whatever they got for it is just a pittance in relation to the value. I mean, that's an ethical issue. How do you evaluate this? What's the standard that you use going forward? I saw the use of this as frankly a tribute to the actor, and he wasn't playing himself. He is playing a character. They are continuing the character, okay? I also have to say that the other ramification that was very interesting is I'm thinking, what do we need actors for? I mean, really, Clark Gable, we're old enough to think about all these guys, Jimmy Stewart, phenomenal actors who were gone. I mean, with this technology, what do I need the new latest Johnny Depp or whoever it is? I could recreate Clark Gable. Trust me, he was a heartthrob in his day. Rock Hudson was too. And we could put a lot of actors out of business going forward by digitalizing them, which is exactly what Disney is doing with avatars and things that come close to being human but aren't. So to me, that was the interesting issue in terms of what does that speak to the acting profession going forward? Is it going to put a lot of you guys out of business?
That may be where the Actors Guild would give you some meat.
Will push back. Because
they would be saying that if we allow you to continue to do this, you're going to really cut the market for new actors.
Well,
I mean, the guy who did all the other things and they put his face on him, nobody knows who he is.
Right.
Nobody,
exactly.
he doesn't have a chance. So that's where the Actors Guild could maybe give you some skin in the game to say, I've been in the Actors Guild and they're saying they're going to push back hard on this.
It's like automating the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Literally taking machines to replace people. And that's probably some other venture or paths you can think about. But I do have a question. I know you guys both touched on it about what you said about imagine your loved one. It didn't resonate with me. And the reason why is because that's not my dad. That's a character. And the character is a pretty evil guy, right? Like, it's probably more sad for me to go, God, is that my dad? Like, playing that character? He's like worse than Darth Vader. So I think the ethical part of it to me is, if he's in character, I don't think it's so bad. Like if you took like someone who played a good person, also make them evil or something, then that's not, the actor may not have signed up for that. But if the actor, even though he's dead, and he's still in character, I didn't see it as super ethical.
Yeah.
Or an ethical dilemma, yeah.
I don't know, I'm kind of like neither here. I think I kind of do, I'm not fully convinced, but, so just overall feedback, as I thought that it was an interesting subject. I was curious to ask you why you chose the subject.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because to be honest with you, I don't see the passion coming out. And I think that if you were really into it and just it meant something to you, I think it would have helped you in selling the subject. So I just wanted to ask your perspective.
Okay.
Where is the passion, guys?
Well, I've seen the movie, and then I don't know why I thought of applying it to this competition, but somewhere we started to talk early on, and we wanted to do, we wanted to take a big challenge of something that it really concerns the future, these leading edge technologies, and we knew it would be a lot harder than other issues like an environmental issue or something, but we thought, like, why not, let's give it a try. And
it's not a bad thing. I mean,
okay.
as you, and I say that because it's only the next generation of leaders that are going to be able to continually assess new technologies that are coming out, because we're closer to it. And I say we because I think I'm kind of our generation. And so, or maybe like slightly better. Anyways, but I'm just saying that, you know, it's just as you're closer and closer. Or it's not that bad. Okay, anyways. So, and so as you know, as different generations get closer and closer to technology, because more and more our life, right? Then we can actually connect to it in a way that I'm just going to venture to say maybe others can't. And so that's why I felt that connection with you guys, because if I did see someone that did mean something to me on the screen, and all of a sudden they're saying all these kinds of funny things, and I'm just generally protective of this person, I wouldn't really feel comfortable seeing them say a line or a verse or something that, even if it was in character, I just would not, I would be turned off by that. And so I appreciate the empathy and the consideration you've given to the families and to the friends of these people. But to agree with my colleagues, I think that it could be solved contractually. It could be solved by a quick blurb that shows to the audience that Lucasfilm is thinking about this. And I don't 100% discount that this could be an issue in the future. I think it may be, but it's too early to just say wipe it out completely. But what I would have really loved to see is just the passion. I would have loved to see recommendations around how we could work around this, you know, okay, rather than just saying, you know, completely out of the game. But overall, I felt like it was bold of you to step into this space, because it's difficult to engage, and it's difficult to get people excited about it when it's not sure.
Right.
So good job.
So you saw it, right, and it bothered you, like, when you, because it was your idea, right?
Yeah.
To do it. So you, like, I saw the movie too, and I saw the originals when they came out. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I mean, I was pretty young when I saw Star Wars, and to be honest with you, the two scariest characters I've ever seen in my life are Jaws and Darth Vader when I was young. And this guy is not even as scary as Darth Vader was. But with your topic about it, though, so you were when you watched it, and you didn't see the original Star Wars.
I've seen.
I know when you were growing up, like when they came out. So did you really feel like, oh, I don't. This is bothering me ethically to see this? That's how you felt to it when you.
Yeah, I guess the first reaction was some people had seen the movie and they didn't even realize it was animation. They thought it was a real person, and some people were like, "Wait, I thought that guy died 20 years ago. How was he on the screen?" When I saw it, like, I immediately noticed it was special effects, animation. I don't know if I just have a tuned eye for that. But then it wasn't until a little while after that I started thinking about it and the implications that this would have for the actors, their families, the acting industry as a whole, that it started to kind of dawn on me that there could be an ethical issue here.
And to her point a moment ago, just the way you just answered that question was better than any of your answers earlier.
Oh,
like, you were more natural, you were yourself, your personality came out, like, it was much better than the whole.
Your natural passion showed up right there, with how the movie affected you. And that kind of opening and sustained level may have been even more effective than the opening about murder, family member, blah, 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 blah. You know, personalize it, you know, and then bring it back to your consulting group. But yeah, he hit it right on the head there.
It's almost like when I saw the movie, like that's almost like how you, because I thought you were trying to sell like, you know, a plot of, what is it, like a burial thing, like, you know, when your family died, you know, it's
A burial plan.
Yeah, it kind of had that
Plan.
feel to me in the beginning, so. But yeah, I think, but it's a really interesting topic because obviously none of us even thought about that, right? Like,
It's new.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think you did a fabulous job. You know, really tough topic, and I would not be surprised to see this resurface again as you know,
As it develops.
Yeah, as it develops.
actually, I do have one last quick question for Charlie.
Yep.
You're an actor, right?
Yep.
So, does this bother you if your likeness got used down the road?
If I had died, possibly.
You'd be dead.
You
Yeah.
But knowing
But then I shouldn't be around anymore.
That's my point.
Right.
No, well,
But now knowing that it could happen, how do you feel as an actor?
A little freaked out, a little on edge about like being around still like on the screen if I weren't.
So if you signed a contract, or your family member signed a contract, you signed it with whomever, do you think you'd feel more protected? But if you got hit by a bus today.
Yep.
Charlie, guess what? We're gonna all die one day. Take care of it now.
They went to your family and said, you know, we really loved his acting and we want to keep him alive. Do you feel comfortable if we recreate him
And stayed in character.
and same character? Now speaking from an actor's voice, how would you feel?
I personally would not feel comfortable with that. I'm not sure. I mean, the worry is that people would consent to this on financial reasons, and they would be making profit and seeing someone's legacy and name go on with their son or family. But yeah, I don't know. It's still kind of spooky to me.
But these movies, if I remember correctly, and I think I fell asleep after the first, you know, the original Star Wars, there are all those holograms, right, of the characters in a different dimension where they come back from the dead intrinsically in these movies.
Yeah, that's also something that the filmmakers are, they were considering for Rogue One, and they're also considering it for the future, for Carrie Fisher and other actors, whether it's holograms or the Force Ghosts, I think they're called. But yeah, that is another possibility. It's a way to get the character in there without the spooky factor.
Or they do the, what's it called, the recap of what happened in the previous one, and then they use the footage again.
Did any of these families sue so far? Do you know?
This
Just started.
Since it's so early.
Nobody sued yet?
No.
That's probably why.
Yeah, Peter Cushing said he did not.
Well, they got paid.
All it takes is
probably.
2 or 3
Right.
celebrities,
Yeah.
families
Yeah.
to sue, and all of a sudden this is going to be an issue. So.
I don't think anyone would ever do this without obtaining consent or verifying that there's no next of kin, because you don't ever want to expose yourself to it. It's so easy to just go to somebody and say, we want to use this, and here's what we want to pay you for it.
Yeah, I guess just in the future, if you Lucasfilm really wanted to get this actor in the next sequels, and then the family was pushing back, then it would be a difficult decision.
Well, then they'd make a business decision. They probably would never do it. They'd hire another actor. They'd figure out a way around it. He was in an accident. He was horribly scarred, and so now it's somebody else with a different voice. I mean, there's all sorts of ways around it if you need to do that. Or you simply digitize the character and you make him more of an animated type character than the individual.
It's like your James Bond point.
Yeah.
James Bond's still James Bond,
Yeah.
so it's a different person.
It's a good thought, though.
And they've done it very well.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
probably done it the best of
They should
anyone
have.
in the franchise.
And Charlie, I think you should tell people you're an actor.
Yeah, you should.
Because that's your experience, you know, like
Right.
you have a
It's
personal
compassion.
connection. You gotta talk about your personal feeling about it, and you need to step up.
How would I feel if it were me?
Yeah, I'm an actor, and this is why I.
Right.
Right.
Because I just saw that on the thing. Oh, he's an actor. So.
So in your 10 minutes tomorrow, jump in with that passion that you jumped in with.
Yeah.
Let them know that you have some personal skin in the game, and I would also say, put it right out front,
Yeah.
that this is very, very early in this, you know, and that sort of diffuses some of the pushback.
And the other thing is that tomorrow it's only on the ethics, so the legal dimension, you know, which I basically cremated you guys on, and the financial
She's a judge,
dimension.
if you got that.
Oh yeah, and I ran a half bench for all those years. Those are off the table. It's only the ethics, and so the ethics, I think, when you remove the other considerations, it'll make it
It's not
stronger
this
for you.
competition. How cool would it be, like say if you opened up the show and you know you kind of did a skit, and you're like, I'm an actor, and boom, you're gone. like your colleague comes in and like recreates you or something. You know,
Any 10 days.
Oh, it's getting late in the day.
So change your time.